Hey guys, it's Laura from Lightning Cosplay, and we are back with a new project we've been working on for the last 3 weeks. A while ago, Square Enix came to us and asked us if we would like to cosplay Ereshkigal, the new character from Outriders Worldslayer. When I saw the character design, I was instantly into it. I mean, she's a villain, so she's 100% my style. The game was just released, so definitely check it out. You find the link in the video description. Well, I think let's just start with the crafting. I started with the easiest part of the costume, the boots and pants. I found some black boots which look super close to the reference and also bought some simple black pants. Although the boots were nearly perfect, I still had to do some changes. As you can see, they are a little too wide in general and too long. These are fake leather boots, which makes it a lot easier to work with. I always recommend to work with fake leather for your costumes in general. What I can also really recommend is to adopt a cat helper. They are the best. Next, I made the pattern for the holes on the pants and on the boots, and then pinned it on with needles. I use it like a stencil to mark where I have to cut all the holes. I just slightly airbrush the pattern with a light gray. To cut out the holes, I used small fabric scissors. And again, I got help from my best cosplay helper, Bob. Then I did the same with the boots. To prevent the fabric from ripping too much, I added glue to the inside of the pants. When the glue was fully dry, I did some slight weathering on the holes with my rotary tool. This is actually a rotary tool for nail art. It is more precise and less strong than a normal rotary tool, and I use it often for my weathering work. As a final touch, I added some light grey color on the edges for more contrast. The skin which shows through the holes is very pale, almost greyish, so I'm wearing this tights underneath. And this is the final result. It's a good example that you don't need to make every single part of your costume from scratch, especially when you don't have much time. Next, let's move on with the skirt and the super fancy belt. I started with making a mock-up. Again, my cats did their best and helped me with cutting the fabric. For the skirt, I choose a rough textured fabric, which is great for weathering. To get a nice distressed effect, I used a soft steel brush. The bottom edge of the skirt was then painted with a light sand tone for a dust effect and also some dark brown to make it look a bit dirty. I found this belt online which looks exactly like the one on the reference picture, so again I saved some time. We could not find good D-ring holder, so we had to make them ourselves. We used 2 mm thick acrylic sheet, cut them with our laser cutter and bent them in shape with heat. This worked out surprisingly well. After I painted them, I attached them to the belt with rivets. I added the skirt to the belt and pinned all the meters of fabric into the right shape. With good old hot glue, I just glued the skirt onto the belt. I added a bit more contrast to the whole thing, and then I could start working on the super fancy belt buckle. Ralph did a great job 3D modeling the buckle and printed it with our resin printer. Resin prints are not very durable and break very fast, so I decided to make a silicone mold and cast the buckle in resin, which is super durable. Molding resin prints can be very tricky because some silicones can get cure inhibition, especially platinum silicone. So I always use Moldmex XLS, which never fails. The mold turned out super nice, so I mixed some resin. Here I use Smoothcast 325 with a bit of So Strong pigments. It's my all-time favorite resin. I already demolded after 20 minutes when the resin is cured but still soft enough so you can bend the piece. I thought giving the buckle a bit of a curve would look much nicer, so I taped it onto a round object and let it cure for a few hours. Then it was time for the best part, painting. I used alcohol gold colors and also some rub and buff for extra shine. The black pearls got a glossy coat. I also molded and casted the gemstones, and then the buckle was already done. We bought some meters of the super cool chain, which I attached to the belt and the buckle. I'm super happy that I found a chain that looks exactly like the one on the reference picture. It's called Wheat Chain. The buckle looks so nice with the chains and the red fabric of the skirt. I am really happy with the result, and we made this skirt long enough that I can later do a photo where I'm levitating. Let's move on with the top. I first made a pattern with the good old tape method. I have been making my patterns now for 10 years like this, and it still works the best for me. I used the tape pattern to make a mock-up out of a cheap fabric to check if everything fits. The mock-up was then cut apart to get the final pattern. This is a really nice fake leather I found online, which has a slight texture. For the red details on the top, I used fake leather piping. Normally I would now sew all parts together, but there are no visible seams on the reference pictures and all edges are super ragged, so I decided to just glue all parts together. For that I used contact cement. The only thing I sewed on were the small hidden zippers in the neck and on the side. Then I added the last details. For that I used 2mm metal wire and bent it into shape. I highlighted the frayed edges to give everything more depth, and then the top was already done. Looks super nice, and it's definitely something I would wear in my everyday life. Ereshkigal has very nice and wild red hair, so I bought this wig as a base, but it obviously looks super boring. Copic marker or any type of alcohol ink are great to dye synthetic hair. I dyed the roots of the wig dark red, so we get a nice gradient. Darker roots always make a wig look more natural. After dyeing, it was time for some styling. For that I shortened the wig, thinned it, and I did my best to get the styling right. To be honest, I'm not a pro in wig styling, so this is mostly trial and error, but in the end it always somehow turns out good. And this time I was also very happy with the result. Ereshkigal has these veins and other things going on at her body. So I decided to make some prosthetics to get the best effect. For sculpting I used Monster Clay Medium, which is my favorite one. For molding I used Moldstar 15, which is one of my favorite silicones. It's easy to mix, and in this case I didn't even have to degas it. And here we have the finished mold. This was easy. I made encapsulated silicone prosthetics. For that I used cap plastic and thinned it with acetone. I sprayed on a few layers with my airbrush. I added a little bit more cap plastic with a brush to make sure it gets in all the details. Next I applied a bit of Pros-Aide. This gives a better bond between the layers. As silicone I used Dragon Skin. I scraped away the excess silicone with a spatula. It's important that there's no silicone left where you later want to melt down the edges. I added another layer of Pros-Aide. Then came some more coats of cap plastic. For demolding I used powder, otherwise everything would stick together and the piece would be ruined. And ta-da! Here we have a perfect encapsulated silicone prosthetic. I made a few more to make sure we have enough for the final makeup. This was so much fun to make. Thank you Square Enix for this opportunity. For the final look, our friend Kami did an amazing job with the makeup and it turned out so cool. So here is how I turned into Ereshkigal.